Thursday night football showdown breakdown time. What's going on, everybody? We got the Commanders at the Eagles for a Thursday night football showdown. Bobbywow is here with me to break it all down. We're going to find the top plays. We're going to figure out those captains. And we have a super secret all-in play on FanDuel that we're saving for the end of this. We've also got the Turds. Who we're going to play. We're going to figure out who the Turds are. Let's do this. All right, Bobbywow, we are back.
Back.
Monday night was great. You know what's funny? We picked out the turd of the slate on Monday, Dennis Allen, and it didn't matter because you didn't need him. We had a $200 turd, get 5 catches, 60 yards. Didn't need him.
Yeah, it was a beautiful call by Josh, too. I don't know. DFSupNORTH had that in his notes. Sounded like you were able to highlight it on the podcast as well. That should have been gold. Oh,
yeah, except when the kicker becomes the nut captain, then it didn't matter. But it did smash in, if you played anything that wasn't, the giant tournament, but rather, multipliers or single entry type games, it crushed that. And of course, I cashed in all my lineups, but it just wasn't the nut play. But let's see if we can figure out the nut for this one. So we've got another really good one here. And finally, again, these primetime games have gotten good. Another 48.5 point total on this one. Close game, divisional rivalry.
Yep.
Big implications. So I'm just excited to watch this one, Bobbywow. So let's go to the matchup sheet before we actually go to the direct breakdown, and let's just get a feel for how these players are in terms of usage right now. So let's start with the Eagles side of it. And, of course, we always want to look at these running backs first. Last week, snap percentage looks like Kenny Gainwell got like a little bit more work than he normally does. Looks like Saquon, 51% of the snaps, only 37% of the rushing work. And they brought in Kenneth Gainwell and Will Shipley to handle some reps. What happened last week?
Yeah, I think there was a blowout last week. And so some of these numbers, as you take a look at them, Will Shipley, for example, he got extended carries. He got 9 carries, which is a season high, but all 9 came in the fourth quarter when the Eagles were up by 28. So, Kenny G's is still the RB2, the change of pace guy behind Barkley. And, Will Shipley probably doesn't see meaningful work outside of an injury to one of those 2 running backs.
That's fair. So Will Shipley is really just break glass in case of emergency.
Yes. /
a blowout, which I'm not expecting here. This should be a close one, or at least I would expect it to be competitive. Dallas Goedert got banged around a little bit last week. Is he healthy?
I think kind of a similar story with him. It was his first week back after missing 3 straight games, really 3+ games with that hamstring injury. And I just think the Eagles said, we don't want to force the issue. Look, we're in a blowout game. Why push unnecessary reps on Goddard? Let's just ease him back in a little bit here. And I think he's going to be fully up and running tomorrow night for the Washington game.
Perfect. And again, I think in similar fashion, we saw, Johnny Wilson and some unusual suspects like Aeneas Smith get in there at wide receiver for the Eagles. But that seems like also blowout run nonsense. The Eagles continue to generally only run or primarily focus Brown, Smith, and then Dotson whenever they're not running 2 tight end sets. Is that about right?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And really it shocks me every time I see it, but just the lack of production from Jahan Dotson it's almost insane. Like, you're talking about a guy who is on the field for, half of the snaps each game, but hasn't had more than like 2 catches in a game all season and rarely gets, more than 1 target. So yeah, he's almost more of a WR4 than anything else based on how the Eagles run their offense. But yeah, he's out there.
Play. Yeah, they just focus on the 2 guys. That's fine. I mean, it simplifies the offense a little bit. But yeah, Dotson's breakout is definitely coming at some. He will have that game. He actually made a great reception. He only had the 1, but it was a great catch in last week's game. Like I was like, man, this guy looks good out there. He made
That's
a great
the thing
game.
is like, he's a talented kid. You know, he's first round pick. He looked really good at times for the Commanders and just hasn't found that role yet in Philly. But you're right. I put that in the notes too. He could, all it takes is one play for Dotson. He's quick, he's speedy, and he's a guy that could easily break a slate. You know, his name could pop up here as one of the showdown turds, if you will.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you got to get a little bit of exposure to him there. Between Brown and Smith, Brown has been the alpha. Smith has been the beta for sure this season. Last week as well, 30% targets to Brown and only 15% to Smith. We've seen this combination for many, many years, though. It could shift at any time. There's just a random game will happen where a team will shut down Brown and Smith will go off. So I think the expectation has to be Brown better than Smith, but there's a salary difference here, and either guy can potentially get there.
Absolutely. And Smith, he's a guy to keep an eye on field ownership, because there's a lot of potential leverage to be had with him in a game like this, where obviously AJ Brown more often than not is going to be the guy that scores more points, but this is a showdown. This is a 1 game sample size here. So those are the types of things we want to look out for as we get closer to lock.
How do you feel about playing them both in the same lineup?
I don't love it. It's just, especially with Barkley there. It was one thing last season where it was kind of DeAndre Swift, but he wasn't really as involved in terms of touchdown equity. But with him even catching passes near the goal line, we've seen him catch a couple of touchdown passes recently. It's just tough to see a game where, both Brown and Smith end up putting up enough points to hit value.
It hasn't. Yeah. And I see what you mean. Barkley in there sucking up some of the production doesn't help with those two, but it could be done. But maybe for this slate, I might think about a rule like definitely not all 3 of them in the same lineup. Might max out any lineup at 2 of those guys in it, because all 3 would have a hard time getting there.
I'm at the point where I'm looking at the sim and I'm saying, if AJ Brown is in the lineup, decrease, percentage of Smith by 20%. So I'm not ruling it out, but almost essentially ruling it out by the sim.
I like it. All right. Moving on to the Commanders. So Brian Robinson should be back for this game, which affects the running back mix quite a bit. Interestingly, Austin Eckler, finally, they actually did just elevate him into RB1 with B-Rob out last week. He got 70% of the snaps, which again is different than what they had done in the past. So it is noteworthy. Eckler got 70% of the snaps, 60% of the carries, and of course, Jaden gets a piece of those. And then they mixed in Jeremy McNuckles and Chris Rodriguez a little bit. I think all changes with Brian Robinson back.
All changes. Yeah. I mean, you take a look at these guys like, Chris Rodriguez, for example, even with Robinson out last week, he had 2 touches. He played 5 or 6 snaps, I think. So Rodriguez, even if he's out, I'm not very interested in him. And McNichols, obviously, you
can call him McNuckles. You can call him that.
McNuckles. His usage is going to go way down if B-Rob is in too. So as long as B-Rob and Eckler are healthy, I really don't have much interest, if any, in those guys.
Yeah, I agree. Eckler, maybe, but we have
yes.
We have to see what his pricing looks like as well, because if he's priced as a starter, then it's going to be a no for him as well. Shifting gears to the tight end position, looks like Zach Ertz continues to lead the way. 76% of the snaps last week, up from a 66% season average, with Sinat and Bates both mixing in for, it seems like it's been pretty consistent where Bates is on the field a little more than Sinat, but neither one of them gets a target.
Yeah, both those guys have 3 catches on the season. I will say this. I have some interest in Ben Sinat because he's min price on DraftKings. They drafted him in the 2nd round out of Kansas State, and the dude is a legitimate, athletic, quick pass catching tight end. And so he's obviously being developed right now under Ertz. I don't think anyone could have predicted that Zach Ertz would still be healthy, in week 10 of this season.
Yeah.
So he's eventually the plan at tight end at the TE1 position. But you're right. Neither of those guys have been getting any reps. If I am going to take a shot, though, it's going to be on Sinat over Bates.
A lot of people took shots on Sinat in best ball this offseason, kind of thinking like, oh, he's drafted in the second round. It's Zach Ertz. Zach gets hurts. But yeah, Zach Ertz has had a good, healthy year. So good on him. All right. So at wide receiver for Washington, Terry McLaurin has led the way this season with a 22% season target share. Last week, we saw Noah Brown's snap count go all the way up to 89%. So at this point, Noah Brown is fully cemented in there, getting the WR2 snaps for this team. And last week, an elevated target share for Noah Brown, I think because of who they played. I believe it was the Steelers. Who did they play last week? Or the Denver? They played
Pittsburgh. Yeah, they played
the Steelers. Okay. So they played the Steelers. The Steelers have Joey Porter Jr., elite cornerback.
Yep.
And so we knew and were expecting them to shut him down and Noah Brown to get those extra targets. So my question is, do the Eagles have a quality enough corner to where we need to avoid the CB1 and maybe some targets gets pushed to CB2 or WR2 here in Noah Brown?
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily avoiding the CB1 for me as much as it is, look, Noah Brown has carved out a legitimate role, and he's essentially on par with targets with Terry McLaurin over the last 5 or 6 weeks. So it's very clear that he's kind of emerged as this, WR2, he's entrenched in that role, played a season high 89% of the snaps last week. And again, this is a guy who's getting the same number of looks as Terry. So I think you want to mix in both guys. And I'm actually really high on Noah Brown. I'm going to be well over the field on him.
Interesting.
On both sites.
Nice. I like it. Noah Brown. I've been playing him a lot in redraft to mixed results this year at best. But for the same reason, it's like, hey, he's on the field. It's kind of a fun offense to get a piece of. And we all remember Noah Brown kicking ass with Houston last year. I still have the memories.
Oh yeah, no, he's done it before, and he's legitimately talented, and we've seen. I like him at even captain, so you see him on my sheet at the captain spot too.
The rest of these guys, I'm going to call them the turd herd of Luke McCaffrey, De'Ami Brown, and Olamide Zacchaeus, all getting some snaps. Seasonal, all of them are hanging around 40%. It seems to change each week, but Luke McCaffrey seems to be on the field the most of that group, but none of them are really being targeted very much. 1 or 2 targets per week.
Exactly.
Any preferences there? No.
I think, no, actually, no, zero preferences. De'Ami got the least number of snaps last week, but he had 3 targets just like the other 2 guys. So I think you got to mix them all in if you're running in, 20 plus lineups out there. And that's a strategy to me.
The turd herd.
Yes, sure.
I thought of that one on the spot, Bob.
I like it.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump over to the domination station, and we'll get a look at some of these ownerships, and we'll talk through the captain position and kind of thoughts on this one. This one, there's a lot of potential captains here, much more than I think in a normal game, or much more than we had on Monday, for example. So let's kind of take a look here and see what we can see. So I've got the domination station open, and this is where we have, oh, there it is, nice and big. And you could see here that the top option at captain this week is going to be Jalen Hurts, followed by Jaden Daniels. So Jalen and Jaden.
Jalen.
By the way, just side note, Jalen and Jaden, it's such the name that every kid is named nowadays.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess we have trended
that way.
Everybody's
name is Jaden now. Every baby is born. Or Jalen.
Every baby.
Jaden. Aiden. Caden.
Yeah, I look, I think with these 2 guys, and I've said it before throughout the season, number one, Jalen Hurts, anytime he's on a showdown slate, he's viable across the board in all formats. He's a stud, and especially as of late, since the bye week, he's looked much more like the Jalen that we saw last season for the majority of last season. And he's averaging over 30 fantasy points over the last 3 games. This dude has kicked it up a gear in terms of his rushing, which has led to a massive uptick in his scores. And I think, the Washington defense, although they've shown some improvements, as the season has progressed, they don't really have anybody that can really stop Jalen Hurts or limit, Hurts or his wide receivers for that matter. So I think he's a smash play at home in this one.
The Eagles offense has gotten, I agree, progressively better. Getting the guys back healthy is huge for Jalen Hurts. It was tough for him for a couple weeks. I just don't think he's nearly as good without A.J. Brown out there. It's understandable, but he needs that threat. And then when Smith and Brown were both hurt, it didn't look that great for this offense, but they're all coming together. The Eagles team in general is coming together. Their defense is looking much better. Talk about the Eagles defense has looked much better as of late compared to earlier this season. So exciting stuff as far as that goes. So second highest is, of course, Jaden Daniels. So you got the two quarterbacks as the two highest owned plays. I guess I'd go back to, do we feel I say yes to this, but do you feel the need to stack these quarterbacks?
I don't think you have to stack Hurts. I think most of my lines will have probably one pass catcher, whether it be Goddard, Brown, Smith, or even Barkley. That's just how it'll shake out. But I don't think you have to force a stack with him. Jaden Daniels is probably a little bit different, where I would definitely stack one pass catcher with Jaden Daniels. And here's the thing about Jaden Daniels. He has been what the number one pick should have been to this point in the season. He's been really fun to watch. He's taking care of the football. And most importantly, he's leading his team to some really, really big time wins. That said, we've yet to see a true ceiling type of output for Jaden Daniels this season because of the way the offense runs, and because, especially when Brian Robinson is in, because there is so much that runs through these running backs. Jaden Daniels doesn't have, hasn't hit that 30-point upside this season. So to me, he's on the road against the Eagles defense. You already talked about it. They're second best in the league in terms of yardage allowed, third best against the pass. This feels like a spot where we could go underweight and get a little bit of leverage by being under the field on Jaden Daniels here. That exposure seems really high to me.
Maybe put some of those points onto Jalen Hurts, you think? Let's just shift it over. Play a little more Hurts.
Yeah, shift it over, or shift it down to I think it's perfectly possible that Noah Brown could end up a captain without Daniels ending up in the optimal lineup just because of the price point. He's not cheap. Yeah.
No, Jaden's priced up, and you're right. Jaden, when you look at his game logs, it's 22s and 26s. Very nice. But it's not the same as a 35, a 38 mixed in. He hasn't hit that monster game. One thing I have noticed, by the way, I'll just bring it back around to Jalen Hurts, is, I thought when they brought on Saquon Barkley, they would somewhat abandon the tush push. They have not abandoned it at all.
That was the thing, is at the beginning of the season, before the bye week, they did kind of abandon it. It was all Barkley, but it feels like coming out of the bye, it's kind of been reinvigorated, and it has been happening constantly, which has really led to Hurts's production increase.
But it's also inverted Hurts with Saquon a little bit. The last few games, Saquon didn't do much. He had good games, but he didn't get the touchdown. So you're like, oh wow, okay, what happened here? Oh, it was Hurts being pushed in for 2 half-yard touchdowns. For some reason, the Eagles always seem to be on the half-yard line. By the way, you notice that team is always on the half-yard line. Something about
That's
them.
a good point.
Yeah. Why are they? It's always A.J. Brown getting tackled at the half. What happened?
Doesn't make any sense. Come on.
All right, Noah Brown 7%.
Yeah.
So Noah Brown 7%. You got Terry McLaurin, Devontae Smith. I'd rather not play DFS than play Zach Ertz as a captain, and I'm just telling you right now. I like Zach Ertz as a player, but
I don't see the upside with him. He's not quite cheap enough to warrant captain consideration.
I would also say with B-Rob coming back, I don't think Eckler is viable here. I don't like Goddard as a captain. I know he's on your sheet, so let's jump over to the sheet real quick. I know you've got Goddard on there. I don't think it's even. I don't think Eckler. I gotta make this.
Give it a little refresh, even. Yeah, we just got the news that Eckler. You might have to refresh the sheet, but we got news that Eckler was or that Robinson's likely going to play. So that hasn't been updated in the notes yet, but I fully agree with you. If Robinson is in, I won't touch him at captain.
I would have liked Eckler if Robinson was out. I totally am down with that. But yeah, with Robinson being in, I'm not going to be interested in Eckler probably in this game at all at that price. I think Goddard, yeah, 1 star at best, and I really don't think it's a very good captain play either, but it's a name that is acceptable. Hey, listen, I didn't think the kicker was going to be a good captain on Monday. Like, what the hell do I know? I'm just saying, like, I'm probably not.
But you're right. You're right, though. Goddard, he might get there one time a season.
But beyond that, it's like a small crew. So the 2 quarterbacks, Saquon, stud wide receivers, McLaurin Brown, a little bit of Smith, a little bit of Brown brothers, Noah and AJ.
Yeah, the salary savings is really significant with Noah Brown, which is why I'm especially intrigued. He's, again, similar target share to Terry, which, this offense doesn't throw the football a ton. I think Daniels had 17 total completions last week, but that's a type of guy I want to take a risk on.
Again, he's out there the whole time. I understand the risk. He's out there the whole time. He has not had a game yet where he would have been a worthy captain so far this season, but that's a small sample size of just 10 games, and who cares? Doesn't mean anything.
And I think he's just now kind of settling into this true WR2 role where he is the guy.
But it's also important to say it means nothing. What's happened yesterday does not mean anything for tomorrow. This is a 1-game slate. I can just count off on, I don't even say one hand, in all my hands, the number of times that we've done these breakdowns, and it's like, Adam Troutman is the guy. It's just a random turd coming out of nowhere. You never heard of him before, and you never heard of him after. You have to account for it.
But he lives in your memory if you play the Showdown for the rest of your life and haunts you.
If you watch the Turd Spinner, it's a bunch of like Anthony Ferkser. It's just a bunch of names that Traquan Smith. I talked about Traquan Smith the other day. I talk about Traquan a lot.
I don't think there's anyone in the world outside of his immediate family that talks about him more than we do.
Yeah. Like Traquan is brought up here all the time, and no one knows who that is.
Which tells you how much he's haunted us and will haunt us.
Well, MVS pulled to Traquan. We literally said, Traquan.
We brought I mentioned MVS. I mentioned him on the pod.
On Tournament Tactics, we were like, dude, this guy could Traquan Smith it. And he literally had 3 receptions. It's like he did the exact stat line.
Yep.
He put in the Traquan stat line. Can you believe it? That was $1 million call, Bobbywow.
Yeah.
Interestingly, that was not part of my second place finish. That was not one of the names. Had he been in there,
that was an amazing lineup, though. I still can't get over that. That was so beautiful.
My second tournament takedown with Ricky Pearsall on the season.
We talked about him too.
What? You serious right now?
I have to order a jersey.
Yeah, I got to get a jersey. Any turds here of note that we should be paying attention to? I mean, you mentioned Sano, but
I'm telling you, okay? He is almost certainly going to score a 0. And that's just the truth. He has 3 catches this season. I have a feeling that he's going to start getting more and more involved, whether Ertz is healthy or not. And this dude is a legitimate pass catcher. He's a stud coming out of Kansas State. So at min price, to me, he's more viable than really anyone up to Luke McCaffrey at that price. I don't know that I'm playing anyone like Shipley, Bates, Smith, Calcaterra. Probably not touching those guys. Ben Sinnott, though, we've seen 0s at min price get us there. So just a guy in MME that I'm going to be overweight on.
Although I will say, you mentioned Luke McCaffrey and 40% snap count. Luke McCaffrey, 2-3 targets at 1,200. It might be enough.
Yeah, the thing about McCaffrey is, he has had 1 catch. He's had 3 catches over the last 5 weeks. Like, he's getting snaps, but he's not getting opportunities. Zacchaeus and Diami are getting the same amount of opportunities, if not more. So it's tough. But yeah, again, all 3 of those. What'd you say? The
Olamide revenge narrative.
The Turd Herd. I think the Turd Herd. All 3 of those guys are in play.
Oh yeah, from the Turd Herd. Yeah, I mean. But they are very turdly. They are 1 or 2 reception guys. Don't expect much from any of that crap. John Bates at 600. You know what? He gets on the field too. And would it blow your mind if John Bates, the second tight end for Washington, came in there instead of Sinnott, and it was him who on the end? I'm telling you the play. Here's the play.
Yep.
It's a goal line. It's 2nd and 2. Okay, they're lined up in an obvious running play at the goal line.
Okay.
Brian Robinson's back there. You're like, all right, B-Rob, let's roll. You're doing this, right? Because you got your Brian Robinson shares. You're all ready for it. Handoff, fake. Oh, shit. Jalen's going to run it. All right, I'll take that. Nope. Look who's running free. It's the fucking backup tight end. Just no one bothered to cover him. John Bates. Flip. Bates. Touchdown. Nuts. What's up?
Yeah, absolutely within the realm of possibilities. I mean, both Bates and Sanat have had the same limited number of opportunities this season, so not out of the question.
Yeah, that exact play. Take note, this was 25 minutes into this video, and if that play actually happens tomorrow, to the video editor, please clip that scene and place it alongside the Bates touchdown so that we can play that short for the rest of the season. Okay.
It's going to happen. Sanat does have a touchdown this season. Bates does not. But again, we're going to play it back and you'll be proud.
Yeah.
I just want, it looks like Dawson said, doing 20 max, you leave all the turds in. I would probably end up with maybe one lineup of 20 with Ben Sanat in it as a min price punt. Yeah. But that's about as crazy as I get.
Let's be clear, Dawson, you can leave them in your player pool, but do pay attention to your exposure. You don't want to have, like, if you're just making 20 lineups, you don't want to have them all marred with a bunch of zero turds. That's more like 150 entry play. Maybe pick one that you want to go above. Like if you want to play like the Bobbywow guy and have a little extra Sanat, like a couple shares just because it was mentioned, I could get down with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't round out all your lineups with these guys.
Guys, remember, by the way, that we have a superstar FanDuel play coming up in the second segment. Hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, notification bell if you really want to know the lock button core all-in pricing error play on FanDuel.
All in, wow.
Yeah, but we're not going to. We're teasing it. That's that's what they teach at Connecticut School of Broadcast. You got to tease it for later. We're going to let you know in a minute. But first, we're going to do a DraftKings lineup. And let's put a lineup together here. Now, I know you're dying to put Noah Brown up top.
No, I'm not. Let's put Hurts up top. Just
okay.
Get an idea of what salaries are going to do to us. And you get an idea of why I think Daniels is easy to go underweight on, because you'll see you want 3 of 5 guys up here, and he's typically the odd man out for me.
When you play Hurts, is it less exciting to play Saquon Barkley with him?
It is less exciting for me.
Or do you play them both YOLO?
You can play them both. You certainly can. Like, both guys had 30 plus points in week 9. They both smashed. So it's happened before. It actually happened another time too this season. So I don't mind playing them both together. I'd almost rather them kind of be both in the flex, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, understandable. All right, so how about we throw Noah Brown in this one, but as a flex play? 68-25 left. Where are we going next?
I don't know. I'm probably going back up. I'm probably going to AJ Brown.
So a little stack action. Brown and Hurts together. Now we're obviously very limited in how much we can spend from here forward. So we will need some cheap plays, one or multiple. We could take the shot with the $200 guy. You got Johnny Wilson, Turd crew. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
I kind of like, even though, even on DraftKings, I like Zane Gonzalez a little bit here at 4,800.
Little Zane action, little kicker. How about Eagles? Now, defense is not, defenses have not fared well against Washington.
Then I might go Ertz.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of hung up in the twilight zone here.
Yeah, it's Goddard. That leaves you with Goddard on the last pick. It's not the worst. It's not, you know what? I don't mind it.
It's a great lineup. It's solid.
Yeah, I don't mind this at all. I think this is high enough floor. It does work.
I will say too, the Commanders defense, I really don't think they can stop Philly. If anyone stops Philly, it's going to be Philly themselves, and they've been much better as of late. The Eagles defense needs to be in serious consideration. Maybe even a couple shares of captain if you want to get really silly. But I'll be one of the very few times I'll be overweight on a defense on a showdown this season. I think just the Eagles have been so much better than people give them credit for. And let's not forget, Jaden Daniels has been awesome, but he's still a rookie. He's still going on the road to Philly in primetime. And so, I think that's a perfectly realistic spot to take some shots. I think they'll come in under owned too.
Understandable. All right, let's do a quick gear shift here, Bobbywow. And as we do that, we would ask you guys to let us know who's your favorite captain. Who's your captain of choice this time? Hurts. Are you going straight up with a wide receiver, a little AJ Brown action up top? Get a little weird with Terry McLaurin or Noah Brown? How are you attacking the captain position this week? Hit us up in the comments as we shift gears to FanDuel, the Golden Duel, where we have discovered a lock button pricing error. The rare pricing error, Bobbywow, on FanDuel.
Seemingly less rare recently, but yeah.
Yeah, we had a pricing error. You know what? There was the pricing error of Goddard. Was it Goddard? No, Dalton Kincaid on a main slate a couple weeks ago.
And he barely got there. He got there, but he barely got there.
It was barely worthwhile. Yeah, it was like, they sucked you in and then they burned you a little bit. So there was that. By the way, again, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. And if you want to check out DFS Army, we would love to have you on board the team. Right up here on the DFS Army website, it says free month. Click that button. There's a bunch of offers you could sign up for. Sign up at Sleeper, Prize Picks, a couple different sites like that. Gets you a free month of DFS Army VIP, or just use promo code Geek, 10% off. We are crushing it. If you guys have been watching any of the shows that we've been putting out, you saw the winners galore. This was one of the winningest weeks. This was, for me, the winningest week of the season. But for the team in general, week 10 was unbelievable. Freaking nailed it. Core play of Brock Purdy really did help out. For a lot of people, we hit a lot of spots, but more importantly, just the tools keep crushing consistently, especially these showdowns. So if you want to be able to attack showdowns with mass multi-entry, you need this domination station optimizer. Get signed up. Check it out. It's free.
Yeah, just to add a little, kind of a humble brag, but more of a brag on the NBA team again. I was itching for some DFS last night, and I was too late to enter like any of the decent contests. But there was one contest. It was like a $5 entry, and it won like a ticket to a future contest for like $200.
Nice.
And I snagged the lineup. I looked at the NBA stuff. I tried to catch up on the breaking news, which was just filtering in every single second, and I ended up getting the ticket. So our NBA team, man, unbelievable.
Nights like last night, there was a lot of players out. A lot of like the whole Milwaukee team was out. And it really does pay on nights like that to have a full-time person whose entire role is updating the membership with news and updating the projections in real time. We are faster than other sites for that reason. We're just on it. And so you're hitting refresh on the optimizer and you have the latest stuff in there. This guy's out. This guy's starting. This guy's the starting point guard for 3K. You're all over it. So I love that. And the late swaps allow you to do it no matter when the news is coming out. So definitely something we would love to have people in here checking out DFS Army. And like I said, give it a try. I think the ownership is wrong here. So
well, that's an MVP. We're not going to be playing him an MVP.
That's fair. Actually, that's fair. You're right. But looking at the MVP ownership projections on FanDuel right now, it looks like all Jalen Hurts, a little bit of Daniels, a little bit of Barkley, and that's almost it.
Yeah, I mean, Daniels at 26%. He could get there and he could kind of, beat me and prove me wrong. But I wrote in the notes, I'm kind of in this, prove me wrong phase with him until he can hit 30 points upside. I'm going to be on the underweight side of Jaden Daniels. And I think I'm going to find myself in a similar spot here. So I think you could even if you end up at 10%, 12%, and get half of the field, you could spread that on guys like Hurts if you really want to go overweight on him. Or if Brian Robinson is in, he is going to be a relatively sneaky option here at MVP. Yeah, sure. Odds aren't, in his favor in terms of, I think Hurts has a much better chance, and even Barkley obviously has a better chance, but I think Robinson's a legitimate option if he's officially active. So
who else is an option? I mean, I'm really thinking about it right now. Obviously, Hurts is the best play. Saquon right up there with him, and then Jaden, fine, right? Jaden being less good, but still can, he's still a quarterback who runs and easily can outscore both of those guys. Definitely, especially if Hurts and Barkley kind of split the points rather than it favoring one or the other. Jaden can get there. I'm not convinced that anyone else can really get there.
We haven't seen it this season, at least. I think AJ Brown in a vacuum could get there. We haven't seen the big game from him, but he's done it before on these
It would take him exclusively. He'd have to be the exclusive guy that Jalen was throwing to the whole game.
You know what I mean? He'd have to be the guy he's throwing to, and then Barkley would have to run one.
Yeah,
one.
We have seen those kind of games. You're right, from AJ Brown.
If I'm looking to spread, like 10% exposure on someone and get different, it's AJ Brown first. And then I think Devonta Smith probably second. Terry McLaurin, he's been night and day difference consistency wise this season. But again, because of the way the offense flows, we haven't seen a huge game out of Terry yet. So he's more of a flex option to me, even on DraftKings.
I can't see Terry outscoring Jaden Daniels on a FanDuel format.
Oh, let alone Hurts or Barkley. So yeah, I fully agree. I do think B-Rob would be the other legitimate candidate if you wanted to take, get a little sillier in GPP. Put 15.
You know what? That's really what it comes down to. So I think that if you're playing on FanDuel, you really need to think about how many lineups do you really want to put in. There's really only, it's just so likely that Jalen or Barkley is the nut captain on FanDuel. And you're going to see here why salaries will not even matter. Let me get into your cheat sheet a little bit on FanDuel. I want to kind of get a look at what you had said here. Yeah, I mean, there it is. Hurts, Barkley next, Jaden Daniels, and then, of course, let me push this out of the way here. But and then, of course, a little AJ Brown, a little B-Rob. Don't go crazy, but we like to play our running backs on the FanDuel format. Let's go to more of the turd zone, though. So as we start to drop, Eckler, I think, there you go. If Robinson less interested, and that's what it is. Robinson being in, exciting at $11K. I like the price for a running back who's a touchdown guy. Eckler is fine too. I do think it's going to be kind of a split with him, and I don't love it. I don't love either of them. 9,500 for Noah Brown is just meh to the savings. It's not that exciting. I do like Elliott as a kicker. Eagles defense, very playable.
Ertz is cheap. He's 8K. He's more in play on FanDuel to me.
He's a touchdown scorer. That's why. But after Ertz, dries up. Dries up. I mean, there's nothing. I'm not even with Zane Gonzalez.
With Zane Gonzalez, you almost can ignore everyone else.
Yeah, the super sneaky play that we've been teasing the whole time is Zane Gonzalez. Zago.
Probably won't be sneaky, but yeah, it's you can go over the field. And
you know who it is sneaky to? It's sneaky to if you don't have an optimizer, if you're just kind of eyeballing it, you might just not notice that he's down there. It's oh, is the kicker even here? And then you don't notice it.
Well, and plus people get scared of second string kickers as well. Yeah. So he'll come in under owned too. You definitely want a good chunk of ownership in Zane Gonzalez.
And by the way, Washington has been a kick lots of field goals kind of a team this year too. Anytime you get a rookie in there, that's kind of dynamic, but rookies always have the hardest time getting the red zone figured out. So they do tend to kick a lot of field goals. Those type of teams that can move the football. So, man, this is as good of a play as it's going to get.
And the Eagles don't give up a lot of touchdowns. This is a game where you could see extra field goal attempts for Zane, who was perfect last week, 5 for 5, 2 field goals and 3 extra points.
I'm curious to see if with Zago in there, can you just afford anything?
Yeah, I'm curious too.
Yeah, all right. So I believe, because we don't really need to get Turdley here. That I do like that about this slate. At that point, you're just the only other name that even got any kind of looks is Zach Ertz. So let's take a look at a lineup with Zago and see how that looks.
Still your odd man out here. I think you can smash 3 studs in there. And I am more in favor of Barkley on FanDuel, I feel like, than I am on FanDuel with Hurts than I am on DraftKings.
This is ridiculous.
You get AJ Brown.
I could put Jaden Daniels in here.
Jaden Daniels in there too.
And then you could get Goddard, Brown. defense, kicker, Austin Eckler. I mean, you can't quite get Brian Robinson, but almost.
But you could go Brown and McLaurin as well.
I wouldn't, though. I think this is the better way to build it. And
it's safer.
If you want a cash lineup, the one I did on Monday absolutely smashed cash. I threw it together in 10 seconds. And I was like, if you're in a cash lineup, and I was like, yep, that worked. This is a cash lineup to me. Could there be a better cash lineup than this, Bobbywow?
Probably not. It
might be too obvious. No,
no better cash lineup. But it is not. You're right.
Where am I spending the extra 1,000 to improve? Like, you can go from Jake Elliott to Austin Eckler.
I don't hate the idea of the Eagles defense in there, even with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, that you could play Eagles defense instead of Eagles kicker if you want. The other way I might build the lineup
instead of Jake Elliott. There's some ways to get different, but that is the cash lineup.
If I were switching this up, my first thought would be get rid of Barkley, put in Brown, and then jack up this spot to either Terry McScary or Smith or B-Rob, something like that. Like if I wanted to try to build more of a tournament version, get some of these wide receivers in there, like Terry. That'd be a pretty cool one in a tournament.
Agreed. Yeah. Again, I think we could easily see a B-Rob outscore a Jaden Daniels on a slate like this.
The lesson here is FanDuel is going to be really fun. I'm worried about ties on FanDuel. Like I think Zane Gonzalez lineups with Jalen Hurts at quarterback is going to be so freaking common that you're just playing a 3-on-3, a 3v3, which is concerning. But beyond that, yeah, actually FanDuel kind of fun in the sense that you don't have to make that many decisions today. All right. Any other thoughts on the slate, Bobbywow?
I don't know. I think I'm sticking with my gut. I like the idea of being underweight on Jaden Daniels across the board. Allows you to really spread your exposure and get an advantage on the field over those, like the Turd herd, for example, and other guys that are going to be lower owned in that lower price range. And if I'm punting, I'm punting with Sanat. And I think Hurts and Barkley are, there's probably an 80% chance that one of those guys ends up as the top scorer on the slate.
I love it. Turd herd, RTM copyright.
Turd herd and Noah Brown's kind of like my edge play. He's where I think the most overweight.
Wait, did what I just said, does that technically copyright the terminology of turd herd? Do we own that now? RTM.
I don't see how anyone else could use it after that.
I've got to put that on a t-shirt.
Turd herd.
Except it's going to be pictures of us. The turd herd.
Turd herd getting tutties or whatever. I forget what the one the other week was.
It's going to be pictures of we're the turd herd. That's going to end up who it's going to be. All right. That's going to do it for this Showdown Breakdown Thursday Night Football edition. We are at week 11, guys. We're well past the halfway point on the season. So everything's coming together. This is that part of the year when you expectations start meeting reality with these players. So I'm hoping that, projections are continuing to dial in and be better and better each week. Our expectations and the predictability of these games continues to improve. So hopefully we'll show in the results. Congratulations to all the big winners from NFL Week 10 at DFS Army, guys. The amount of swag, I've got a room where my wife packs up all the swag bags for everybody. And it's crazy. She's been working since like Sunday, just wrapping bags of hats and t-shirts and swag.
Basically Santa's workshop over there at this point.
It's like you would actually love it because it is kind of like Santa's workshop. Just wrapping paper and shit. My wife's got all that stuff in there too. You know how it is. She's got an office.
It's fantastic.
How come our wives all have an office and the biggest thing is like you open up a closet and it's like wrapping paper everywhere. There's rolls, tape. I don't have any of that shit up here.
Those bows are flop. They fall out everywhere.
Yeah. There's little shiny things. I don't have any of that up here in the office. I look for just finding a pen is impossible. Like I'm still looking for a pen from this morning. I had to write notes. I'm like, I don't have a pen. Opening drawers and shit. I can't find a pen. She's like, oh, what do you need? Christmas paper? What do you want? Santa? You want the reindeer? I'm like, what? How many options do we have? Anyway, that's going to do it for Tournament Tactics. Hit that like button, guys. We will be back on Friday. Tournament Tactics with Burns and Josiah, and of course Bobbywow and myself going through tournament takes on the NFL Week 11 slate. My cheat sheet is coming out Friday night as well. So it's a fun week. A lot of options to look at. Do we have any other content? The first look for DraftKings is live here on the DFS Army YouTube channel as well, so make sure to check that out. FanDuel coming out later. And, of course, we appreciate your notifications, your likes, your subscribes, and all that great stuff. So we will see you guys next time for Bobbywow.
Sheesh.